I'm just gonna sit here and wait for some people to join the stream before I get into chatting with you guys. I'm streaming on multiple platforms tonight. I'm streaming on Twitch live, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube tonight. I thought I would stream on all platforms tonight. Since I'm not really going to be gaming per se, I might put on a game for a little bit, but I kind of just want to chat tonight, guys. I'm not having a great day. I'm really not. It's just not a good day, and that today would be the perfect time to express what I'm going through and talk about what's been going on over the last little while. There's just been a lot going on, and it just really messes with you sometimes. I should have my other headset. I can't seem to find my other headset. There we go. So I'm just going to set up. Sorry, guys. I know I'm kind of lacking here. And I'm just waiting for some people to join my live. Hey, thanks for joining my live stream. There's not going to be a vlog this week, guys. To be honest, I'm struggling a little bit. So, yeah. I just thought I would come live and kind of share my story a little bit more with you guys, like be a little bit more raw. So I am streaming on multiple platforms right now. So if you guys see me kind of looking like crazy all over the screen here, it's because I'm answering questions all over the place. Thank you for joining, guys. I'm already seeing a couple people. Okay, so I guess we'll start. First of all, can you guys hear me okay? Actually, put my other headset on too. Also, if you hear music in the background, it's just my mom in the other background. She's watching some country show. Okay. Okay, now I'm all set up. I swear. I'm not going to be fiddling with a whole bunch of stuff during this whole live stream, but so I just thought I would come live tonight. There's not going to be a vlog on my YouTube page tonight or today, sorry. I was going to put one up, but to be honest, it hasn't been a good day for me. And I basically just curled up in a ball and ignored the rest of the day, to be honest. Um, so I just thought I would come and kind of share with you guys what's going on. Little one on one here. So, for those of you who do follow my story, you guys know that I have a number of chronic illnesses, and so I'll list them for you guys just so that if there's anybody here that's new and don't really know me, then you know now. So I have stage 4 endometriosis. I also have a genetic disorder called Behçet's disease, which is also an autoimmune condition. I also have dysautonomia, which is most likely a secondary condition that I developed through the years with Behçet's disease. I also have, which could be mild neuropathy, um, again, just from Behçet's. Behçet's is not a fun condition to have, trust me. Um, I also have complex dysmotility disease of my large colon, and it's kind of unclear as to whether or not it also is also involving my small bowel, so that's something that we still don't know yet. And I also have mild gastroparesis. So with my gastroparesis, a lot of people talk about gastroparesis and how severe it is, and it is a very bad condition, and it can unfortunately deteriorate with time, and how severe it is. I'm lucky; I can still eat, so mine isn't as severe, but it is still bad enough that I have pretty bad days sometimes where I can't keep food down or I can't really eat, um, and that comes and goes sometimes. But for the most part, I'm lucky I can eat. I do feel for people who are dealing with gastroparesis. It's extremely hard to deal with at times. So I feel for them. Um, I also may have a few other diagnoses that we're still uncovering at this point. But again, I don't really want to go too much into that just because they're not fully diagnosed yet. And I'm still going through testing for that. So I'll kind of talk about that later. But for now, I'm just going to talk to you guys about what's actually going on. So currently, my colon is failing. Um, it's it's half functioning basically. I have so if you don't really know human anatomy, which I'm sure you do, um, basically the large colon goes around your abdominal wall like this. And basically, you're kind of looking at this in the opposite direction that I'm actually going. So it's kind of hard to explain this, but basically, the lower half of my colon, which is the part that you express the bowel, so get rid of waste and try not to be as gross as possible here, but basically at the bottom part of your bowel, it kind of does this like turn and then down. This part of the bowel that goes like this is called the sigmoid, and that's where my bowel is failing. And then it kind of follows all the way down to the rectum. And so that whole section of my bowel is completely paralyzed. So I have little to no urge feelings there. So when you basically, in a normal person, you get urges to go to the bathroom. With me, I do sometimes, but I would say about 90% of the times I don't. So And even the feeling that I do have is most likely spasms that are coming from the top part, so just above where the sigmoid is. I'm constantly spasming there. So it's like my colon is trying really hard to push or contract as much as it can to get whatever that is there out. Um, Sorry, this is kind of TMI, guys, but I'm trying to be as vague as possible here without being too gross. But that's essentially what's going on with my bowel, and I am most likely going to be losing my bowel this year. Um, Now, unfortunately, they didn't just go ahead and remove it because at the time, about a year ago, they thought I had a condition known as Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is EDS, which is another awful condition. And thank God I do not have it. I don't meet all the criteria for it, so there's a bunch of scoring for getting that classification of diagnosis, and I didn't quite have all of them. I was very close to getting the diagnosis, but I was missing like 2 points basically. So I am quite hypermobile in some parts of my body, like my skin is very hypermobile. Um, my finger joints are very hypermobile, and my wrist. Um, my shoulders and my elbows are quite hypermobile, but basically the lower part of me is not hypermobile whatsoever, and my back is not hypermobile. So I just didn't get those um, those points basically, and you kind of need those points in order for you to actually get the diagnosis of EDS. Um, And of course, every country is kind of different with their medical system and their point system, which is weird, but that's just how it is. And I'm here in Canada, so it's different from like the US or somewhere in Europe or something. So, anyways, I once again don't have EDS, and that was confirmed back in September of last year. So, a few months ago. So, that aside, they did do a bunch of genetic testing through the EDS clinic, and the EDS clinic found that there were some mutations in my blood, but it wasn't quite, they didn't quite understand what they were. So they referred me to a genetic specialist that works in conjunction with the EDS clinic, and they also um, subscribe. They also um, what's the word? I can't even talk. Referred me to a neuromuscular doctor just because um so basically I have a lot of weird problems with swallowing. I have a lot of problems with my muscles. And I also have a lot of problems with nerve pain and weird sensations that happen throughout my body. Like I have um, a spot on my hand that goes almost like somebody's holding a lighter to it, like if they're burning it for some reason. Like I get this burning feeling on my hand all the time, which I found out from the neuromuscular doctor that is most likely neuropathy. So I'm going to be going through tests for that to figure out what type of neuropathy I have. Um, and that would also make sense considering I have so much nerve problems within my bowel and just like throughout my body, and the fact that I have dysautonomia on top of it, which is a nervous system condition, that it wouldn't be unheard of if I did have some sort of neuropathy. And because I have an autoimmune condition, your body changes and does weird things from that as well. So yeah, it's a struggle at times. And I will say that today I had a good cry. I cried a lot today, unfortunately, just because it just hits me sometimes, to be honest. Um, it's just hard to put on a face and be happy and, try to hide what's really going on. Um, and I'm sure I'm not the only person out there with a chronic illness that actually goes through that and feels that every day. Um, it's very hard to describe it, and to talk about sometimes, because I don't I don't like opening up all the time, and I don't like really showing the mental side of things, because I think I'm to be honest, I feel like I need to be strong all the time, and it's hard to be strong all the time when you're chronically ill, but at the same time it's like my way of coping, I guess, which I know isn't the best way of it, coping, but um sometimes it's just my way of dealing with it, I guess. But I thought it would be, um, I thought I would just come live and just talk to you guys about it and see if there's anybody out there that would want to know more about my conditions, or if you're struggling right now, know that you're not alone at all, and that it's okay to feel this way, and it's okay to talk, and it's okay to have a day where you just want to shut the world out and scream. Because, yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But, yeah. So, do you guys have any like questions at all for anything that I'm going through? Sorry, I can't talk. um, I will say tomorrow I'm back at the hospital. Uh, See, if you're watching from like the States or overseas or wherever, so I'm from Canada, I'm from Ontario, and right now we're under pretty severe lockdown. Our numbers have been rising, and it's getting scary. We've got a number of field hospitals set up everywhere, and a lot of the major hospitals in the major cities right now are now transferring their patients to the smaller cities. So all the hospitals that aren't so overcrowded and um, overbearing from COVID patients, which is, to be honest, scary. Because so right now I'm in a city, but I'm not in a very big city. I used to live in Toronto, but about a year ago I moved back to Barrie, which is where I'm from. And if you don't know Barrie, Barrie is not a huge city. It's pretty big, but it's not huge. It's a nice sized city, I would say. And we've got one major hospital here. It's a good hospital. It has a great cancer center. It's really well known. It's fairly new. Um, but my team isn't there. My team is in Toronto. So unfortunately, I have to drive an hour. Well, not me. My mom's going to be driving me tomorrow. Shout out to my mom, by the way. Um, but it's like an hour away, which is not that big of a deal. Um, but to go back into the city is quite scary for me because I'm immunocompromised and I am not vaccinated yet for COVID. I have not been medically um, passed for my medical team yet. They have not given me the go ahead yet to get vaccinated. I do qualify because I am considered disabled and I'm considered high priority, so I can get the vaccine. It's just a matter of being medically cleared at this point. So I'm hoping this Thursday I will get that clearance, and then maybe I will be able to get vaccinated next week or in the next coming weeks. That's the plan. Um, so tomorrow I go and I have my third infusion. So the first the first infusion I had was last month, and it was basically a boost to kind of boost my white count because my white count has a um, habit of failing on me quite often, and when that happens, I am extremely high risk for infection. So I had that done a month ago, and that helped. My counts have come up. They haven't come up a whole lot, but they have come up to the level where if I got an infection tomorrow, I'd be able to fight it off fairly good. It might take me time, but I could probably do it. And then I had my second infusion a couple weeks, no, last week, sorry. I had my second infusion last week, and now I'm having my third tomorrow. So that's in the city. It's in Toronto. It's again an hour away, and so I'll be doing that. And then I'm also getting a ultrasound on my lymph nodes because I've been having a lot of swelling in my lymph nodes, and I saw an oncologist about a week ago because of the fact that my white counts have always been an issue. So they sent me to a oncologist, hematologist, and who was an amazing doctor, extremely knowledgeable and very sweet. Um, Great bedside manner, which is plus to me because I have to deal with a lot of doctors, and sometimes doctors aren't too nice. I hate to say it, but some doctors are just really like rushy with patients. I'm fortunate to say that most of my doctors are all fantastic doctors and really listen to me. Um, but I'm not gonna lie, I do have like one or two that are just don't really show the attention or care that they should. But whatever, it is what it is. It's the medical field. You're always gonna face them. Anyways, so he was a great doctor. We had a long talk about what could possibly be going on. But basically, because I developed some lumps all around here, is where they are. So my neck, within the last month, they're very new. One has definitely gotten bigger. I also have a few other very swollen lymph nodes. TMI here, but they're around my crotch area. Those have gotten quite enlarged, and so he was more concerned about these though because of how big they have gotten and how fast they've gotten. The ones around my groin area have kind of been there on and off for a while, so that one's not as alarming because of the fact that I have endometriosis and a few other conditions on top. It's bound to happen that I have swollen lymph nodes, but I've never really gotten them here. And because I do lose my voice quite a bit and I have problems swallowing sometimes, he didn't really want to mess around with that. And due to the fact that my white counts were low, it was more so to take a look closer and to figure out if it's something that could be treated or if it's worrisome, something that's worrisome. So for now, um, we're going to do that, and hopefully Thursday I'll find out because he's going to be calling me on Thursday with the results of my blood work and of the ultrasound. So from what I can tell from looking at my blood work, like I said, some of my counts have come up, which is a plus, but also some of them have not. So we will figure it out tomorrow, I guess. I mean Thursday. Um, but yeah, so that's what's been going on there. Um, so some people ask me, like, when you say you'll be losing your colon, what does that mean? Will that mean, will you have like an ileostomy bag, or will you have basically when they basically reroute your system, they connect your small bowel to your rectum? So right now, I am looking at an ileostomy bag. I had what was called a anal rectal manometry test, which if you've ever had that, then you'll know exactly what I mean when it's very uncomfortable. That test, it's not fun. Um, so it's going to get a little bit gross here. I do apologize, guys, but I'm going to talk to you about what an anal rectal manometry test is. So basically, if you don't want to hear this, click off now. um, so basically, what the anal rectal manometry test is, it's not a very long test, very quick. It's like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. It's not that long. It's done in a lab in a hospital. And basically, what they're doing is they're measuring the pressure and the contractions of your gut. So when you're moving food through your gut, your bowels do this like wavy motion, and it as it does that, it moves things all the way down. So your large colon does that quite a bit. Your small intestines do some other things. Like your small intestines have like little hair-like things that kind of help things move, and like it's a whole other system in the small bowel. But the large bowel, it kind of waves and does other things too. But because my contractions don't happen in the lower half of my bowel, um, they wanted to see whether or not my rectum is still functioning. So if the rectum is still functioning, then essentially what they would do is cut the bowel from the rectum, leave like a couple inches, and then take the small intestine and connect the two. Sometimes they can form what's called like a pouch and then connect the two that way. Um, but that would be um, that would happen whether or not, sorry, that would happen if my rectum was in fact functioning, but it's not. So, um, from what I was told, the anal rectal manometry would give us the answer on whether or not we could just reroute the bowel or we would have to remove it completely. Um, so I was told that if it came back that there was no movements or nothing, now to be honest, I have not gotten the results back yet, but my last appointment with the bowel surgeon, they said, depending on what it says, I would either get a bag or I would get there's another term for it, but the rerouting, basically. I can't remember the name, I'm sorry, guys. Um, but yeah, that's essentially what would happen. Um, so, as far as I know, I had an assessment done with a pelvic floor therapist because the rectal surgeon had mentioned that after you have surgery, when they remove the bowel as a female, we have a lot of organs in there as a female. Sorry, guys, I'm going to talk about female anatomy here. Um, so, as a female, you have a lot of organs in there, and there's not a whole lot of room, so everything's kind of compact and everything's kind of like supported by other organs. So once you take something like the large intestine out of there, which gives a female a hell of a lot of support, you kind of change the anatomy and things kind of get, I don't know, like messed up in a way. So, for instance, the uterus. So the bowel comes down and the uterus kind of sits along the bowel. So once you take that out, the uterus can kind of flop back. So what he had told me is it's probably best beforehand and even after I have the surgery to continue with pelvic floor therapy. And because I have endometriosis, it's very beneficial to do pelvic floor therapy anyways, because there's so much disease in there that it deteriorates everything, and destroys everything. And the more and more surgeries you have, the more and more scar tissue develops, and the more damage develops in areas of the pelvis. So with me, I have stage 4, so my disease is quite severe, and my surgery was 8 hours long. It was not an easy surgery. When I had my endo surgery, it was a mess, and it was um, almost a 3-week hospital recovery. It was not easy. So um, basically, they said that it would be beneficial to try and strengthen that part of my pelvis so that when I do go through the major surgery, that it would kind of help stabilize things, and it would make it so that um, those parts weren't so kind of like floppy, I guess. It sounds so weird saying that. um, but yeah, it's just more so to like create stability and strength, and um, I guess kind of like help with what do you call it? Oh, what's the word? Um, I'm having major brain fog here. Um, so when you take something away from the body, you're like, for instance, if you were to remove someone's arm, they would suffer with um, foreign limb syndrome. It's the same thing if you take the colon out, your body automatically makes these pathways from the brain to those parts of the body. And when you take that out, you're going to end up with uh, that loss of limb syndrome type thing. It's the same with the colon. So he also said that it would also help with that. So yeah, essentially I could either end up with the bag or the other surgery. So I will find that out next month, actually, on the 14th. Either way, to be honest, I'm ready. I'm so ready. I just want to get this thing out of me at this point. Um, it's a constant battle of pain all the time, especially at night. I hate eating sometimes, and I have to eat because you need to eat in order to survive. But to be honest, I have developed such a love-hate with food, and that's something that I definitely want to start talking to a therapist about, because this whole experience has really messed me up. Food is not fun for me right now. I've lost um, all of those fun vibes that you get from eating foods, I guess. I've lost all of that from this situation. Food actually makes my symptoms much worse at times, even though I'm eating foods that are fairly easy for my body to try and break down. I'm on a very bland, strict diet, because if you have complex motility disease, you can't exactly eat a lot of fats. You can't eat a lot of proteins. You can't eat high fibers. You're kind of stuck with like really, really simple carbs like rice and very little cooked vegetables. And I mean like very little. I can't sit there and eat vegetables every day. I can have like a serving once a week type thing. Um, Even like, I will make soups, like a vegetable soup, and I'll try to eat those a couple times a week. And then when I do that, Unfortunately, it's so dense with fiber that it actually slows my system extremely down, and then I'm left with like weeks of trying to get myself moving, and it's really hard. It's really, really hard. Um, I deal with a lot of bowel spasms because I'm working with a bowel that's working on one side, and then the other side it's not at all. So I have a lot of pressure pain and a lot of buildup that keeps putting pressure on all my other organs, and I get a lot of bloating and a lot of just pain and discomfort. And because of that, I'm now on a pain patch 24/7 to help with that because it's more efficient to be on a pain patch instead of oral pain medications, because the pain medications can actually make you more constipated, and we're trying to avoid that. The pain patch, yes, can still slow your bowel, but it's a lot less likely for it to do it when it's going through my arm. It's usually here or here on me. Um, it's far less likely for that to happen because it's such a small amount and it's always in my system, so it will actually cause the opposite to happen. Um, and because my metabolism and everything is kind of messed up, I don't really absorb medications as thoroughly or as normally as somebody who is healthy. Um, so there's that as well. Um, yeah. So I, when I'm gonna say 2 years ago when I started going through this, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was a hairstylist. I was working almost 14-hour shifts a day. Um, I loved my job. Loved my job. And I just really loved it. I loved being around people, and I loved working, and I loved being creative and artistic because it is very artistic being a hairstylist. And I had a lot of clients, and I worked really hard to get the ranking that I did. Um, it was very exhausting, but it didn't seem like that at the time because I was just always go, 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 go. So 2 years ago, I had gotten a weird infection, and it landed me in the hospital. Wait a second. Is it 2 years? Actually, 3 years ago. Sorry, 3 years ago. So, yeah, 3 years ago. I basically got these weird infections that started happening, and I ended up having to go in and out of the hospital. And each time that happened, they weren't really sure what was going on because my bowel kind of just stopped working, which was weird. Like it was working way more than what it's working now, but it just I kept getting small obstructions all the time and infections, and my inflammation counts were high and all this stuff. And at first they thought it might have been Crohn's, so they started testing me for Crohn's, and then they started doing scopes and everything. And when they were actually looking at my bowel was quite healthy looking inside, minus the little tiny bit of colitis that was in my large bowel. But again, it wasn't so significant for them to be like, oh, this is why you keep getting these obstructions. There really wasn't an answer. So it was kind of weird. So, anyways, I continued to work, did my thing, working away, and this kept happening over the course of 6 months. I kept getting these weird infections and high fevers and in and out of the hospital for the exact same thing, small bowel obstructions. one after another. It got to the point where I was missing so much work that I ended up switching salons because at the time I think they were just getting so fed up with me that they were like not really saying hinting to me about firing me or anything, but it just wasn't a good match. And so I switched salons thinking that it would be a better match for me, and it was closer to I had moved in with my boyfriend at the time, and I was hoping that to be closer there, it would be easier for me to get there. And if I got sick, then I wouldn't have to take a subway all the way over there. I could just kind of walk over, and it would just be easier on my body. So I did that and lasted 4 months there. Unfortunately, I got so sick and I only got worse. And I ended up getting more and more infections and obstructions, and it just got to the point where there was seriously something wrong. I was starting to pass out. I was starting to have severe blood pressure issues, and just things just kept happening over and over again. So finally, my doctor, during one of my doctor's appointments, my primary care basically said, "We don't know what's going on with you, but here's the thing. You are sick. You can't keep working as many hours as you are. You need to take some time off. We are going to do some tests and figure out what's going on. In the meantime, take some time off." So to hear a doctor say that to you, and to hear a doctor say you don't know, that they don't know what's wrong with you and that they know it's serious enough that you need to take some time off, was pretty hard to hear. And it was something I did not want to hear because I had worked so hard to get to where I was, and I'm not somebody who likes to just give up on things very easily. So that happened. And so I immediately had to tell my place where I worked, and thank God they were really great. Like to this day, I'm very, very good friends with the owner of the salon, and we keep in touch. And I am very thankful that I was able to leave my work without any drama or any ill will feelings or anything like that. So yeah, I that was that. um, I'm very thankful for that. Drink some water there. This is just melon water. It's really good. It's refreshing. Um, anyways, I so yeah, that happened, and so I quit my job, and from there I was put on disability, and I actually got accepted for disability quite quickly because of how severe my condition was getting, and the fact that my colon had deteriorated that much, and there was a lot of proof for it, and the government right away was like, yeah, no, we're approving you. So I was really shocked actually, because it's really hard to get on disability in Canada, extremely hard. And I know people who have cancer who have been turned away. So I was really, really thankful and shocked at the same time. And to be honest, I was accepted for disability about six, no, seven, no, wait, no, about 7 months after I quit my job. So I went on EI after I quit. and was on EI, and then not even a month after my EI was done, I went on to ODSP. So again, which is, if you're not from Canada, ODSP is disability. So I was put on that. Now, when the coronavirus hit, I moved back home because the city was too expensive for me. And when you're on disability, you just don't make a whole lot of money. And unfortunately, a lot of my money goes towards medical expenses. Um, and with the coronavirus right now, a lot of people aren't working right now. So um, it's even more harder for me and for my family because a lot of people aren't able to work. And even if I did get like a part-time job, which I can on disability, I can't even do that right now because of the fact that the coronavirus is going on and I'm immunocompromised severely and I would get sick. And if I got the coronavirus, it would take me out quite quickly. So I have to be really careful. So hence the reason why I try to keep coming live and building this community as much as I can and just connecting with people who are also fighting this not necessarily the same battle as what I'm fighting, but who are going through similar battles that I'm going through. Sorry. I am feeling a little bit dry here because I know I'm dehydrated. I know it sounds gross saying that, but we're going through similar. I'm a little dehydrated today, so getting a couple of messages here. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I don't mind answering anything. Like if you'd like to know more about any of the diseases that I have. I can talk to you about Behçet's disease and what exactly it is. A lot of people don't really know what Behçet's is. It's actually quite a rare condition to have. A lot of people know what endometriosis is, thank God, because it's talked about a lot more now than it used to be. I know when I was younger and when I first heard the term endometriosis, I had no idea what it was, and a lot of the medical community really didn't know what it was. But thank God now, when I walk into the emergency clinic sometimes or hospital or whatever, they know what it is. So when I was younger in my 20s, which was like 10 years ago, yes, I'm in my 30s, guys, nobody knew what it was. So that was frustrating in itself when you're trying to explain it and a doctor doesn't know what it is. Now, I'm going through that with Behçet's disease, unfortunately. Most doctors that are new to me have no idea what the hell it is. So then I have to sit there for like 20 minutes and explain the condition to the doctor, which is fine. It is a very rare condition. So, yeah. Funny story about how I was diagnosed with that, though. I'll tell you guys that story. I need to keep hydrating here. That's the other thing. When you don't have a very good functioning colon, you tend to get dehydrated very quickly because the colon, fun fact, absorbs quite a lot of water. That's the main job of the colon, actually. It absorbs water, making TMI, feces, which have very little water in it. So that's what the colon does, and then of course it gets rid of it. That's all your colon does. So you can live without a colon. What you can't live without is the small intestine. So yeah. Anyways, going back. So Behçet's disease. How was I diagnosed with Behçet's disease? So when I was 24, no wait, 23, 23. So I'm going way back. When I was 23, I was getting a lot of joint pain and swelling. I'm getting all these weird messages now. Oh, okay. Sorry. So when I was 23, I I was, for whatever reason, I kept getting really bad joint pains and swelling in my ankles. My ankles were really, really swollen, and I was getting tons of mouth sores, um, and sores on my skin and private areas. Um, and they would come and go, and they were extremely painful, and I didn't really know what it was. Um, I thought maybe it was a virus at first. So I had, at the time, had a different primary care physician, and he referred me to a rheumatologist in Toronto because I was living in Toronto at the time. And they thought I had lupus. So they started testing me for lupus. Turns out I did not have lupus. Then they started testing me for adult Still's disease, which is another autoimmune condition. And turns out I did not have adult Still's disease. So that was thrown out. So then at this point, I was seeing somebody and I moved in with him, and he was living in Hamilton at the time, so I had moved to Hamilton with him. And he had lupus. And so he, some of his primary care, sorry, some of his autoimmune team was in Hamilton. So he had suggested that I go see one of the rheumatologists that used to treat him, who specialized in autoimmune conditions. Also, my boyfriend at the time was studying to become a doctor, so he had a lot of knowledge about autoimmune conditions and just weird immune things. Because at the time, they knew it was some sort of autoimmune condition, they just didn't know what it was. So they started treating me with prednisone to try and suppress some of the um, symptoms that I kept experiencing. So I was on prednisone for, oh God, well over a year. And that was an awful medication. I never want to be put on that again, although I have been back on it recently. Not as high of a dose, quite low, but just small sessions of it, thank God, for some flares that I've experienced. It's a very effective drug, but it's a very harsh drug to be on. So I was on prednisone for actually more than a year, because it took me a while to get off of it due to the withdrawal symptoms that you get from it, which are quite severe. Um, well, hello. Are you gonna come say hi? Yeah, it's my cat. Um, that's Salem, by the way. My cat Salem. Um, anyways, so what was I saying? Oh yeah. So the doctor at the time was in Hamilton. I did not like this doctor at all. He was a very rude doctor, um, extremely rude. Was had awful bedside manner. Did not listen to me. Kept saying that a lot of my symptoms were in my head, and that I didn't have anything wrong with me, and I was perfectly fine. Like, I'll never forget it. I remember walking out of that appointment and basically crying, like, and went home and just had hours of crying because I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand why a doctor would say that, even though I was on prednisone and clearly sick. Sorry? Oh. Looks like I've got a spammer in. Anyways, um, yeah, so I, so I was basically on prednisone. I was really swollen. I was struggling. I was having a really hard time just living at that point. I was 24 and I had gained 100 pounds and I'm 5'3" and I was over 200 pounds, but it wasn't from fat, it was from water weight from the prednisone. So I had swelled right up. Like I have photos of how swollen my face was and my eyes and my hands. Like I remember just walking to the store was such a hard thing to do because when you're on prednisone, your lymphatic system starts to not work very well. And not only that, your hormones don't really work very like regulate very well. What? One second. I think my cat is begging for food. You have food, you goof. Come here. Anyways, yeah, so I was dealing with a lot of those symptoms from prednisone. And yeah, it messes with your body, so your body doesn't really um, like your kidneys don't work very well. Your adrenal glands go into adrenal crises, which essentially means your adrenal glands completely shut down. So that's why you retain so much water, and that's why you experience a lot of episodes of like rage and like extreme mood swings. Like with me, I was really angry all the time. Like, excuse me, you could say like one thing to me and I would just get so angry at the person. Like it was insane. I was like a completely different person on this medication. Like that's what I mean. I pray to God I will never have to be on prednisone for large amounts of time as I was then. Let's just put it that way. Knock on wood. That hasn't happened. um so anyways, I basically from there was transferred to a new doctor, and that doctor essentially said that, okay, sorry, no, it was that mean doctor, sorry, that said that I had definitely could possibly have Behçet's disease. But I'm going to refer you to another doctor who knows more about it and will run the certain amount of tests that you need in order to be diagnosed with it. So that was after months and months and months of fighting with this doctor for him to finally listen to me. Okay. So that was that. Got rid of him. Then I had some sort of weird episode with my heart. Now, at the time, the episode that I had, I thought I was having a heart attack. My heart rate went from resting rate to 245 beats per minute, which was ridiculous. Like it literally felt like my heart was going to explode out of my chest. And I fainted on the bathroom floor. And at the time, my boyfriend rushed me to the hospital. They kept me in the hospital overnight, put me on beta blockers. They were watching my heart rate going all over the place. It took a long time for my heart rate to kind of settle down. And to this day, I still have those episodes. So at the time, they thought I had developed a hole in my heart, which when I was a child, I did have a small hole in my heart, but they thought it had grown in, which it usually does. But this doctor had seen a small hole in my heart, did a bubble test, and at the time, it had showed a really tiny hole in my heart. which was causing pressure changes between the two chambers. So they kept me on a beta blocker and basically told me that I would have to be on a beta blocker for the rest of my life. So I was put on the beta blocker. Well, then rewind to where we are now. I had the bubble test again 2 years ago. There is no hole in my heart anymore. So whatever they saw back when I was 24 has long since grown in and it's no longer there. But I still have issues with my heart rate and just my chest in general. I still have problems with like regulation and blood pressure. And I was diagnosed 2 years ago with dysautonomia. So we know now that most likely I could have had the hole in my heart, but back then I definitely showed the symptoms of dysautonomia. They just didn't give me that diagnosis then. So yeah, so that was then. Then I saw the new doctor. They put me through a bunch of blood work and they started treating me with a drug called methotrexate and Plaquenil. Now, Plaquenil is the one that you were hearing at the beginning of this coronavirus. At, what is it? Not azathioprine, but I can't remember the name of it. But basically, it's called Plaquenil. It's used to treat malaria, and it's also used to treat autoimmune conditions like lupus. Now, mind you, this drug is extremely hard on your system. Unfortunately, it is a slow acting drug, so you need to be on it for a long time for it to even benefit you at all. And once those levels do build up in your system, it can deteriorate your eyesight, which is not fun. So you have to be monitored every year. You have to have retinal scans and all that stuff because eventually it does deteriorate the eyesight, and you could go blind just from this medication. So, anyways, I was on it for a year. I didn't really notice a whole lot of benefits from it. Um, the the one medication was helping. It kind of slowed down the Behçets, the methotrexate, and I had a couple good years, but they took me off of it because it was causing a lot of it was causing me to have a lot of dizzy spells, and I was throwing up a lot on it. Unfortunately, it's essentially a small dose of chemotherapy every day, basically, which is what methotrexate is. Um, so they took me off that, and I went into a small remission while on the Plaquenil. So I was on the Plaquenil, and then they took me off the Plaquenil because I was in a small remission. And they started treating me with one other medication, which I can't remember the name of it. Starts with a C. It's another immune modulator. But anyways, so I was on all of those. And then went back to hair school at this point. So this is all in the course of a few years. Went back to hair school, moved back to Toronto, and got a job in the hair industry. And from there, my medical team had transferred me from Hamilton to Toronto, where I was transferred to the current team that I'm with right now for all my autoimmune stuff. And then they put me on, oh God, what's the name of that medication? I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's a medication that they give you to treat gout, and it didn't do anything for me. I think I was on it for like 6 months. I saw no changes whatsoever on it. It was actually an awful medication. It caused so many like problems with my stomach, and I just didn't like it. So they took me off of it and they switched me over to a medication called azathioprine, which is known as Imuran, um, which is a fairly old drug. It's been on the market for a long time. It's a very effective drug, and it changed my life. It gave me 7 really good years, really, really good years. I was able to work my ass off in the hair industry. I went into a small remission. I essentially had very little side effects from the medication itself. Um, it just it changed my life. It really did. Um, I was able to live a life and work as hard as I did, and I was very thankful. And to this day, I'm still on it, although I'm on a short break from it just because of my white count thing. It's all wonky, but I'll probably go back on it. Um, but yeah, it did a lot for me. Um, so yeah, that's my story there about how I was diagnosed with Behçet's disease. So what Behçet's disease is, though, it's a vascular disease. So it attacks all of the arteries, veins, capillaries, which is essentially your entire body is covered in. And it also affects the nervous system and the bone marrow. Um, so it is a systemic condition. It it's not a fun condition. So basically, what can happen is the immune system is so overactive that it causes widespread inflammation throughout the veins, the capillaries, and the arteries of the body, and it can cause blood clots. I've had 2 blood clots in my legs. Um, Luckily, I went on some blood thinners, and stab yourself in the stomach, and they went away. And that was basically the big red flag that told them that it was definitely Behçet's. And due to the fact that I've had so much vasculitis, like especially in the last 2 years, I've had so many episodes of vasculitis. I hate vasculitis. If you know what vasculitis is, you'll know what I mean. It's essentially inflammation of vessels underneath the skin. It's very painful. It's very burny feeling, and extremely sensitive because it inflames all the nerves. So touching those areas can be quite painful. And that's essentially what happens in the mouth when you get those ulcers all over your mouth. And I get a lot of them, and they get big and extremely inflamed, and it makes eating sometimes very uncomfortable. So because my body has been under a lot of stress over the last 3 years, my Behçet's has been flaring a lot more. And that was the whole reason why I saw an oncologist, was because of the fact that with Behçet's disease, it can affect the bone marrow. And what he told me is it's something that can happen, meaning the bone marrow just doesn't, it's not as effective anymore, so it kind of gets lazy, I guess, and essentially releases cells that are not strong enough or mature enough, which is not good because it can leave you extremely immunocompromised and make it very hard for you to heal and to, yeah, just heal. You need to be able to fight things off. And right now it's very hard for me to fight things off. So, yeah. So that's another thing that can happen. Also, it can also affect the eyesight. So with me, I've had muscle degeneration in my eyes and my retina. So I have ulceration of the surface of my eyes because I don't produce enough fluids in my eyes, which is very common with autoimmune conditions. You can develop a syndrome known as Sjogren's syndrome, which essentially means the glands throughout your body become inflamed and they don't express fluids. So, like your saliva glands, your eyes, so your tear ducts, all that kind of stuff can just become very dry and inflamed. So, that happens to me quite often in my eyes. My eyes are constantly dry, and I've had vasculitis in my eyes because of that. So that's why I wear glasses now. Used to have perfect vision. I no longer do. I now am long and nearsighted. I will never regain that back. So even if I was to have laser surgery, it would just come back again. So there's no point. So I don't mind. I like my glasses. So I never used to, but I do now. Um, so yeah, there's that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can talk about. I think that's really all. I mean, you guys now know my story. You guys now know that what I'm going through is it's pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie. You know, it can affect my mood sometimes and my mental state. I am not gonna lie. Like today was really hard. I had a lot of things happen today that were just threw me off, and thank God I have the family that I do. I'm very blessed to have the family that I have because I don't think I could do this without them. Especially this last 2 years of being in colon failure. It's not easy. It's really not. Um, like it also could be a lot worse. So I shouldn't really sit here and complain. But yeah, I'm very blessed to have the support and the love that I have in my life. My family's amazing. So I'm glad I'm home too. The city was starting to get to me with being as sick as I am. The city is amazing and it's fun. It's just very stressful. So yeah, to be honest, I'm getting older, so I'm quite happy with just being in a smaller town and being surrounded by more nature. Um, Even though I would honestly wish that I could be on a farm, to be honest, because I absolutely love animals so much. I think that's why I really like the new game Ranch Simulator. I know it's so lame. People always make fun of me over like nerdy stuff like that, but I really wish I could run a small little farm. Like I love animals so much. But yeah, so that is my story, guys. I think what I'm gonna do is log off and get some rest. I have a very long day tomorrow, and I just really wanted to come live for a short time. I've been live for an hour and 15 minutes now, so I'm the goal was to come live at least once tonight because after the infusion tomorrow, I will be quite sick. It takes a lot out of your body. Um, it's rough for a couple days, but then it's fine. I'm hoping that this time around it's not going to be as severe, but we'll see. So, yeah. Okay, so sorry, I was just messaging back a question that I got privately. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. We didn't get very many views tonight, but that's fine. If I can at least reach one or two people um, about my story, that's really all I care about. Like, I just I just want to use my platform to talk to more people and to really share my story because it's not an easy thing to go through something like this. And I have connected with so many people out there who have medical conditions, like autoimmune conditions, chronic illness and all that stuff, and I've been able to connect with some pretty amazing people through those groups, and I've created some really good friendships because of it, which is great. But I would really like to connect with more people, and this is why I do the streams and why I do run my YouTube page. And it's also something that I would like to do full time if I could ever get there. I can't do that without you guys, without your help. So, thank you so much for watching any of my videos or any of my live streams. Thank you, seriously. And if anybody, literally anybody out there who is struggling or who needs help or has a question for me, please do not be afraid to tell me. Or ask me. Like, I I don't mind. I honestly don't mind. You can message me, DM me on my Instagram page at Hair by Megs. So actually, I will put that here. That's what it looks like in my Instagram. So if you would like to connect with me on Instagram, like DM me, you can definitely do that. You can find me at um, that Instagram there. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna go, and yeah, I will probably will be putting a vlog up at some point this weekend, guys. I'm just gonna need a couple days to heal from tomorrow, but I'll be back. I promise. Um, but for now, I'm going to just rest and play some Minecraft quietly and try to get some sleep tonight. Okay? Thanks, everybody.